invasion by Russians. Could the United States conquer Russia on its own? In order to provide a response to this question, we need to take a more in-depth look at the armies of both countries, compare their advantages and disadvantages, and determine which armed force is the most fearless and ruthless one now operating. Let us begin with a comprehensive look at one topic, specifically the nuclear power industry. The fact of the matter is that we have to come to terms with the fact that any comparison of military capability to that of Russia must preclude any country from making use of nuclear weapons. Why, reportedly, Russia has 5,900 total operable nuclear weapons, whereas the United States has 5,400. This indicates that the United States and Russia have approximately an equal parity in terms of their nuclear warheads. These stockpiles can really include a tie in their inventory. The United States and Russia each have approximately 1,600 operational deployed strategic nuclear weapons. However, these figures should be taken with a grain of salt because neither country will confirm nor deny the existence of their operational nuclear forces, nor they will only rarely confirm where such weapons are being stored. Being in the dark on this subject is unsettling, don't you think? Now things have taken a turn for the worse. According to reports, Russia asserts that it possesses a fully operational dead hand system, which is also referred to as the perimeter system. This system is designed to automatically deploy Russia's nuclear capabilities in the event that a first attack is conducted with the intention of decapitating the Russian leadership. Although under normal circumstances, this system should be inactive, it is unclear when Russia has this system set to be active. Since 2014, when Russia began its previous invasion of eastern Ukraine and the Crimean Peninsula, it is extremely possible that this technology has remained continuously online in order to prevent a decapitating first strike by U.S. forces. This is something that may be considered a high probability. It will get even worse. After the invasion of Ukraine and the response from NATO in the West to back the defenders, Putin reportedly put all of Russia's nuclear forces on high alert in February of 2022. There was no evidence to suggest that the high alert level had been deactivated. Following their announcement in February that they would no longer allow the United States to inspect their nuclear weapons sites as part of the decades-old SDR weapons treaty, President Putin of Russia announced that as of March 29, 2023, Russia would no longer give advance warning of their nuclear weapons tests. This announcement comes after Russia's announcement in February that they would no longer give advance warning of their nuclear weapons tests. Let's shift gears and take a look at other areas of the United States and Russian forces. Now that we have identified all of these alarming red flags for ourselves, who do you believe has the largest military budget and the most advanced weaponry? In a nutshell, the answer is that there is no comparison at all. The current military strength of the United States is significantly greater or much larger than anything that Russia is capable of assembling or gathering in terms of military power. Everything that we have seen so far from the invasion of Ukraine indicates that the Russian Army, Navy, and Air Force have been massively exaggerated by Western commentators, and that Ukraine's outnumbered but heroic defenders have handled them with skilled precision. This is the case despite the fact that Ukraine's defenders are outnumbered. The remnants of Russia's once proud military are being decimated at a rate that exceeds the country's ability to replace them. However, things were not always like this. During the time of the Cold War, the conventional forces of the United States and the Soviet Union were fairly equivalent, at least in terms of numbers. The United States of America possessed a larger and more sophisticated Air Force, Navy, and Special Forces than the Soviet Union had, but the former had an advantage in terms of the raw numbers of tanks and artillery, particularly in the regions that bordered Western Europe and the countries that were members of NATO. But ever since the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, the two sides have experienced a steady and dramatic widening of the gap between them in terms of the technological prowess of their tanks and aircraft, the dependability of their state-of-the-art weapon systems, and their respective capabilities to project power into other regions and spheres of influence. For instance, Russia only has one operational aircraft carrier at the moment, and it is an older ship that burns fuel oil, and was launched in 1985 under the name Admiral Kuznetsov.
Hey, my name's Charlie Reed. You don't know me, but I definitely know you. Hell of a rep you got.
Including onboard fires and repair cranes falling on its flight deck while
Hey, my name's Charlie Reed. You don't know me, but I definitely know you. Hell of a rep you got. See, listen, I don't know if you noticed, but private militaries are back in business. And there's one group of assholes taking serious advantage of the good publicity. Merryweather security. I'm talking major recruitment drives, government contracts, and all kinds of shady shit on the side. So, I've put together a team of ex-military, reprobates, guns for hire, and good old-fashioned crooks. We got one objective, doing what's right and putting Merryweather back in the box. And you know, making some serious paper while we're at it. I call us Los Santos Angels. Listen, I want you to be team leader. All you need is some hardware, an Avenger, and an operations terminal. And then we'll be good to go.
Strike groups, each of which is based around a nuclear-powered carrier. Each of these strike groups is comprised of a number of different ships, some of which are carriers of the Aegis class, nuclear-powered attack submarines, destroyers, minesweepers, and additional support and resupply vessels. Each carrier of the Ford class will have the capacity to host more than 75 aircraft, including the most cutting-edge aircraft of the fifth generation, the F-35C, as well as the most cutting-edge drones, airborne warning and surveillance aircraft, and other types of aircraft. These carrier strike groups make it possible for the United States to monitor all of the world's waters and to project its air force beyond the borders of the United States. Russia does not possess a capability that is comparable, and it is highly unlikely that it ever will. The same discrepancy exists in each nation's air force, and it is only growing wider. The United States possesses both the F-35 and the F-22, which are both fifth-generation stealth jets. On the other hand, Russia only has the Su-57, which is almost but not quite a fifth-generation fighter, and it is prohibited from flying over Ukraine for fear of being shot down. Meanwhile, the United States is already making progress on the next-generation air dominance system, which includes new weapons, advanced sensors, networking, and battle management suites, redesigned jet engines, and innovative combat drones that will be designed around the truly groundbreaking sixth-generation fighter to replace the F-22, which, despite the fact that it is being replaced...
Hey, I know we've got that other thing. You're still working on that, right? Great. Okay, well, I've got something else, something so big and so secret. We've got to hide it under 1,000 tons of reinforced concrete by an ex-government facility on Maze Bank, and I'll meet you over there. This'll make any bank job we can pull look like small fry.
Vamos Zonder toevoegingen en gebruik van zorgvuldig geselecteerde ingrediënten. Argenta, de goede kant van brood. Most recent budget for the Navy has already set aside over $9 billion for funding the continuation of development. On the other hand, Russia asserts that it is developing a fifth-generation plus fighter called the Mikoyan Project DP, which is also referred to as the Big 41. However, the aircraft hardly exists outside of scaled-down wind tunnel mock-ups at this point, and it is possible that flying prototype may not be seen until sometime in the middle of the 2030s. Then there are the tank forces of each separate side. There is a possibility that the American Abrams tank is not the finest in the world. Some people believe that the Israeli Merkava, the German Leopard 2, or the British Challenger 2 tanks hold that title. However, ever since the first Gulf War in 1990, the Abrams has been put through its paces in combat and has undergone continuous upgrades and enhancements. Tank commanders will now be able to identify and engage targets at a greater distance than ever before with the use of the Abrams M1 two-system enhancement package, Version 4's third-generation forward-looking infrared advanced optics. Of course, ardent supporters of Russia will insist that their much-vaunted T-14 Armata is the superior tank to any other on the market. Except, where exactly should one start? The A53A engine, which produced 1,500 horsepower, was the focal point of the tank's design. However, because the engine was so underpowered, the Russian army refused to recognize the tank as an operational vehicle. The A85-3A3, which was meant to be the next engine in line, was scheduled to have a horsepower rating of 2,000, but, to your surprise, even that engine is not functioning properly. At the time of this video, Russia has made some noise about the possibility of utilizing a gas turbine engine to replace the weak diesel. but there is no indication that it is anywhere near ready for deployment. While this is going on, the Armada is encountering issues with its brand new and expensive Afghan active protection system. The difficulty is that the Afghan is designed to detect and destroy incoming projectiles. Nevertheless, it has a tendency to incorrectly recognize falling leaves as impending threats, which causes the tank's defensive ammo to be detonated prematurely. There is no evidence that any of these tanks have been deployed in any considerable numbers, and there is no indication that they will be in the near future either. Despite the fact that Russia has been making noise about mass producing the Armada tank, there is no indication that any of these tanks have been mass-produced. Where does that leave the remainder of the apparatus? The United States military is well equipped with contemporary MRAPs, infantry fighting vehicles, and mobile artillery. The Russian military has not invested in updating its MRAP fleet, and instead relies mostly on armored personnel carriers that are based on designs that are more than half a century old. In addition, Russian mobile artillery is a legacy from the time of the Cold War. The United States also has an advantage thanks to its enormous network of military bases and alliances located throughout the world. Syria is home to Russia's lone substantial military installation located outside of the country, whereas the United States maintains facilities in a large number of nations across the globe, the majority of which are located in Europe and the Asia-Pacific areas. Because of this, the United States is in a better position than Russia to quickly respond to crisis and project power on a worldwide scale. The United States military also has a significant advantage when it comes to logistics. The United States possesses an extensive fleet of cargo aircraft, ships, and vehicles, in addition to a well-developed infrastructure for supplying and sustaining its armed forces. On the other side, Russia's logistics system is not as well established, and the country would have a difficult time supporting a large-scale military operation that was located far from its borders. Battle against China. Here are two of the most powerful countries in the world. China, which is the fourth largest country in terms of area and encompasses approximately 3.7 million square miles, and the United States of America, which is the third largest country by land area and encompasses approximately 3.8 million square miles. Both China and the United States are major economic powers with significant global significance. In 2022, China had the second largest economy in the world, with a gross domestic product of around $18.1 trillion. The United States of America, on the other hand, had the greatest economy in the world in 2023, with a GDP of approximately $26.24 trillion. It is true that the United States outperforms China when it comes to the size of its landmass and the performance of its economy. But what about their military might? Now we have reached the terrifying part of the story. China has its sights set on becoming the dominant force in the world by the year 2049, and it plans to achieve this goal by establishing itself as a substantial global military power by that second place on a worldwide scale, barely behind